more like a sausage, not super sausage, but like sausage. Guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for stopping by and taking your time. You are awesome. If you're new to the channel, my name is Alexei from We Love Samples. Welcome on board. Today I would like to talk about the mix knob or parallel compression. Because this was a question from one of the Facebook groups and there were 1,000 different answers and opinions how to set it up, etc., etc. And I think this guy, he just wanted to know how to make it like the easiest way. So the question was basically just, I would like to parallel compress because, you know, he probably heard about like parallel compression is the, you know, holy grail and everyone should do it every single time on every single channel. Like Andrew Sheps, for example, is doing it. At least this is what he says. So today I would like to speak about or talk about how to make it like the easy way. And in the next video, we'll set it up the more advanced way. Parallel compression. So what should you know? You should know that when the whole mixing kind of started many years ago, decades ago, they had no compression or compressors at this time, so they had to do it manually with the faders. It was in the early 50s or like in the 40s, and then in the 50s came the first compressors. At least this is my knowledge about when the first limiters or compressors came out. So before the engineers or the recording engineers, they had to write the faders all the time during the recording. So it's not like post-production. We are sitting with a digital, you know, setup and we recorded everything and now we can do whatever we like. Those guys, they had to do it in real time during the recording, and they had to know the music super well in order to write those faders. Super complicated. Today it's almost like impossible to think about, but this was at that time like the reality. Okay, so compressors, we need them in order to tame down the dynamics, to make the mix more controlled or feel more controlled. And the issue is when we start to tame down dynamics and like compress the signals, we lose transients. We lose this little dynamics that every single, most of the time, every single channel or signal has have like from, you know, from the recording. And when we start to speak about parallel compression, why it's useful because with a parallel setup, we can bring back those transients. And there are basically two different ways. The first way is you can do it inside a tool, inside a compressor, or you can do it on a separate channel. And this is what we are going to do it in the next video. I would like to split it apart so the videos are not too long. So let's get started. There are two different knobs that you should know that they can be part of a compressor. The first one is this one, dry mix, and it's on or built inside this tool, Kotelnikova. Already made a video. The last video was about this compressor. Okay, there are other compressors. They do like have the same dry mix knob. However, there are other compressors like this stock compressor. This stock compressor just has a mix knob. And they're two different knobs. They do kind of the same stuff, okay? But they are built a little bit different. So we have to speak about it. The first knob, this dry mix knob, means that right now the compressor is turned on. I will just play. Okay, so the compressor is now reacting and taming down those transients. And if we let's make like this threshold. I don't have to listen to the signal. I just want to make it an example. Let's make like 35. Okay, so the compressor is even more regular. Let's make it like 40. Okay, so the compressor is now really acting. You don't have to do it on the mix bus because it's just too much, but this is just an example. Okay, so now we hear that the compressor is just acting too much and tames down the dynamics a lot. So what we can do is we can now dial in this dry mix knob, and behind this knob is basically the uncompressed signal. I will stop it. So the compressor splits down the signal in two paths, basically. So the first path is what we see here, so the compressor, which is compressing. And the second path is, or the B signal that runs in parallel, basically, it's the uncompressed signal, so the unprocessed signal. And at the output stage, as you see here, the output gain, the both signals, so the both path, the compressed and the uncompressed, are combined. So when I dial in this knob, I'll dial in the uncompressed signal because the uncompressed signal still has the transients because it's not compressed, right? So this is the first possible way what you can do. The issue here is that I have to mention is, so with this knob you bring back the transients that you squashed before with the compressor. However, important to mention here is that the higher or the lower, so when the maximum is like 0, right? So you will hear the compression and you will hear the maximum amount of the dry signal from the channel as well in the compressor. The issue is that the higher you go, so until this digital 0 point, right, you will hear that the signal at the output stage will become louder. And this is important to mention because when you compare what you actually compress or just compare the signals before and after, which is very important to do, because when the signal is louder, we always think that it's better. I always said it in many videos already, but I will mention it 1,000 times, because you can trick your ears every single time when the signal at the output stage is louder. So what you can do is you can say, okay, now it's too loud, output gain, we can set it up back to 5 when we compare the different setups that we have here inside the compressor. So this is what you have definitely to have in mind when you compress or EQ or do whatever to the gain of the audio. So your output should be always be, or you try to make it as equal in loudness before and after compression or before and after applying the EQ. So you have more or less like a good point where you can reference if you are doing the right things. Okay? Sounded a little bit complicated, but I think you get it. So in order to have a good result, you have to know that the one channel and the other channel, so the one version and the other version, should be at least at the same loudness in order to say, okay, this is really better instead of this. Otherwise, you will trick your ears, as I said before, and you will always pick the louder signal as the better signal. And then the people ask, like, why does my mix sound so squashed or so bad acute, whatever? Because a lot of those guys or people, they just forgot to compare the right volume. The output gain is really important, how you set it up. So make sure to do it every single time when you are compressing signals, EQing signals, whenever you have something to do with loudness inside a tool. Okay, this is the first knob that applies parallel compression. And the second knob, the mix knob here, so when we set it to 100%, which is like the default setting, the compressor is, if I switch it on, the compressor will just compress, and nothing right now is in parallel mode, basically. And of course, like -10, -11 on the mix bus is too much of gain reduction. However, you can say, okay, I still want to, I like maybe the color, because it's like a lot of gain reduction. However, you want to bring the transients back, so the mix is not sounding too squashed. So what you do is, when you play the mix back, you dial in or go down with the mix knob until a point where you feel like, okay, the transients are coming back, because when you go to 0, here is the uncompressed signal. So when we play it back, and I want to check it as well. So you hear, like, when I bypass the compressor, nothing happens. Why? Because the mix knob is at 0%. So we don't compress anything. So you can do it the one way or the other way, it doesn't really matter. However, as well, keep in mind that the knob itself makes the sound every time when you dial in the dry mix, it becomes louder. So you have to check like the gain. Although here it's a little bit difficult on this tool, because you have the gain, the output gain, and you can only like just rise with the dB, so make it louder. Actually, it should be like here, so you can just say, okay, the comparison should be quieter, but you can't do it. You have to do it with an input, and then you have to adjust the threshold. So it's not the best compressor where you can do it. Always look for a compressor that has like this output gain, so you can really have a great comparison between the version that you compressed and the version that you had before, and then you can really say, okay, this is what I did, and this sounds now really at least a little bit better than before, and then you can go from there. Okay, so you have here 2 possible knobs, and it really depends on not what type of the compressor, but depends on just on the plugin. So at the end of the day, they do the same things. So somewhere in the background, they combine the compressed and uncompressed signal at the output stage, and you can dial in back the transients that you lost during the compression. And this is basically it. I hope that I more or less told you why you need the parallel compression. I personally don't apply it all the time. You can definitely try it out on everything: vocals, bass, guitars, drums, whatever, as well on the mix bus. Because when you have one compressed signal and one uncompressed signal and combine them together, the signal, if you compare it to just the compressed signal, oftentimes has more power, as well, because it has a little bit more dynamics, again, because you dial them in. More energy, of course, power energy, and it feels just a little bit more, as well, bigger. So there are a lot of things that will definitely be handy or be positive about parallel compression. So guys, I will next time show you what you can do as well with the advanced version of parallel compression. Not only compression, I will show as well like other things that you can do in parallel. But this is like the very easy setup that you can apply and do all the time, basically. So compress until a point where you think, okay, the transients are really tamed down, the signal became more squeezed, more like a sausage, not super sausage, but like sausage. And then dial in back the dry signal until a point where you feel and hear that the transients are coming back and your signal became, yeah, just more powerful, more forward, more energy, and you're happy. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. Leave a like if you like this video. Leave a comment if you still have any questions. And yeah, you can support this channel by buying me a coffee. The link is down below. I will see you in the next video, guys. Have a beautiful day, week. I'm out. See you in the next video, guys. Bye.
Swag on over, little boy. Swag on over, little boy. Swag on over, little boy. Swag on over, little boy.